Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle KIlcullen. I am the founder of Exploring the Wonder Years. And today we are on episode number 3 of Exploring the Wonders of Parenting or Family Partnerships, I think, right? What are we doing?
One or the other.
Who knows what we're doing anymore? We're just telling our business. And thank you for all of you who have reached out to us and encouraged us. This is just not easy. Right, Jay?
Who said that?
Our family is loving up on us, and then others are like, why are you telling your business? Did we not teach you anything?
Ouch.
All right, so today we are answering one question-ish or so, or maybe 3, about parenting. Parenting style is something that we got a question about.
Real quick before we
go ahead.
We want to tell you folks to subscribe and promote and share as much as you guys can. Even if we touch one person, we've done our job.
Yeah, I think we have something that can help people, right?
I hope.
Like, I'm looking at you. Do you think so?
I hope.
All right. So we're talking about parenting styles today. We're talking about how to handle holidays, right? We're recording this right before the Thanksgiving holiday if people celebrate that holiday. We're talking about child support. And I think the last thing that we'll touch on is like how to start this process of co-parenting. Every day is a new day, new opportunity, and we'll revisit that little commercial break at the very, very end, like a shout out to starting this process.
Sounds good.
All right, Jay, parenting style. You want to start with this or you want me to start?
I'll let you start.
All right.
I'll ride your coattail a little bit.
Oh, well. So what about our parenting style? So I think to define our parenting style, we did, just for transparency, we looked up parenting styles. That's the educator in me. Like, let's do our homework and figure out what this really means. But we kind of did a blend, I would say. So we had rules, we had boundaries that were set, and I'll speak for me. I wanted to raise a male that has his own opinion on life. Many times, Jay and I talked about that behind the scenes. And many times I wanted to call my mother and ask for her forgiveness because I saw myself in that child many times.
Be careful what you wish for.
Hardcore. And so now that he is an adult, there are many times that I'm like, what did I create? Or what did we create? Because I'm bringing you up in there with me.
Oh, sure.
Were there rules at mom's house and different rules at dad's house? You want to talk about that?
Correct. Yes. I guess with my home, can I start off or?
Go ahead.
In my home, because I was very close in age I was probably one of the younger fathers in his school and his sports teams, in various, I guess, categories. And one of my styles was pretty simple, was almost to kind of be his friend, but always know he always knew that there's always that division, although I act like your friend, I'm always that father, and I was probably the most lenient parent, of course, maybe, I don't know. But at the same time, I was also, the disciplinarian. Like we wouldn't hit him. We wouldn't, we would probably punish him, take his phone away. But just with my stern voice, that got his attention. Sometimes the look, everybody always had a look, that's the way we were brought up, but all in all, that was, as long as he did what we were asked him to do, for the most part, we were blessed on that front.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. As an educator, I often say like giving children choice is really important. And so it's like, are you going to wear the blue shirt or the red shirt? You're going to wear a shirt, but your decision as to which one you want to wear is your decision. And so I think that for me, I use timeout to discipline him, and also counting to three was a strategy that I used. And I think up until about 12 years old, I remember thinking to myself, oh crap, if this doesn't work, well, now that he's 12, what other strategy will I use? But I think Josh grew up to be very disciplined.
Yes.
And so also he had his temperament, right? I will say like our parenting style also was consistent with his temperament. He's a pretty easygoing sort of person, right?
Yeah, but that's interesting. And as far as the discipline, like, I guess there's stages too. Stages of you mentioned when he was 12, and there's, I say, the toddler stage, then you have the grammar school stage, then you have the high school stage. And even to this day, as from college to an adult, there's got to be that respect and that, that discipline phase as well there. But more as an adult is more communicating, more speaking. If this is the way you feel, this is the way I feel, and we have to respect each other's opinions.
Yeah. A lot. I know you and I talk a lot about this a lot. It's like asking open-ended questions, right? First, you have to gather some information before you go in and make a judgment call.
Right. Yeah.
I think recently that became highlighted, that we have to ask some more questions about who our adult child is before we jump to too many conclusions or even give our opinion right away, right? We have to kind of step back and ask questions.
Yeah.
Josh, we raised Josh to be very independent.
And opinionated.
And opinionated, good Lord. But yeah, I think thinking about your house, what sort of things did you make sure happened? What did you see as important?
Keeping a tidy room, making sure we eat at the dinner table. That was one of my pet peeves. Laundry. Well, after high school, that kind of he took his own. He ran with it, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Or during high school, at the beginning stages of high school, he took on the laundry. He was probably better at laundry than us, or at least me. I would save it for 2 weeks. He would have like a small bag like Robin Hood.
So you bring up an interesting point about eating dinner together. What are the positives about that?
I mean, we both have different lives. I was working, constantly working, and he went to school. So that was our time to have a discussion, to see what's on his mind, to converse and dine, and kind of teach him that the way it should be. Especially as adults, when you get out to the real world, you have these dinner meetings, and just from that, I just felt like he was, we can communicate the most. What about yourself?
Yeah, food, I think always when people are eating, defenses are down, and it gives you a real opportunity to get to learn who your children are as people. And so that was also important in my house too. Something that comes to mind when I think about that, it was like there were never any toys allowed at the dinner table. right? So it was like when he was a kid, there were, these figures that he loved. And then when he got to a certain age, the cell phone did not come to the table. That's
Mhm.
not something that happens right now, but
No.
I can't.
Just like having dinner together is a lost art.
Yeah,
Especially like at with a regiment. You cook. Not everybody cooks. Not everybody. It's just like, all right, you eat in your room, you eat in here,
yeah,
or in a restaurant, and that's it.
yeah, yeah. So one of the other things so just for true transparency, we could not remember how we punished Josh. And so prior to pressing record here, we called him. And what was the first response that we got when we said, Josh, how did we punish you?
I'll let you say it. Go ahead.
He started to laugh. He's like, what? You guys didn't really punish me. And so, and again, I think that goes back to his temperament. There was choice. He was allowed to make certain choices over time. And one thing I'll say, there were little choices that he could make, but then there were things that it was just part of our routine, right? It was not, I don't want to go to dad's house this weekend, or I don't want to go to mom's house this weekend. That was not a choice, because I think sometimes parents allow children to make those choices. That's not a choice. You go and you spend your time with your father or your mother, whatever the case is.
Well, I think it also helped that we were both in relationships, and it was almost needed for our partners to have alone time with us. I
Absolutely.
mean, wouldn't you agree? You know, it's just that time to build with your partner,
Yeah.
especially when you're co-parenting. It's just so hard.
Yeah. I think, one thing I'll say, I know in the teenage years that becomes a little bit more challenging, right? Because then children's, young adults start to work, or they have groups of friends that they want to be with. And so I think that's another conversation that has to happen, and parenting changes at that time.
Yeah, you also have to disclose that we also live 3 blocks away from each other. So that does help.
Correct. Correct. Yes. Yeah, we lived in close proximity to one another. So something I'm not sure if we've talked about in episode 1 or 2 is how involved Josh was in baseball, um, and why that was important. Do you want to speak to that? Because I know that you've had that similar experience in your upbringing.
Um, one of the key elements when we decided to put Josh into any sport, whether it was basketball, baseball, flag football. I don't even know. Well, just any sport in general. It was just to keep him off the streets. That was our main goal, and to give him some sort of team building responsibility, because that will transcend him as an adult. Um, and we were fortunate enough that he ended up being uh, pretty good at baseball, and also got a scholarship for college out of it.
Yeah.
And that, because we did that as a, I guess we had, it wasn't done on purpose, but that, to get a scholarship or to become a professional baseball, it was more to get him off the streets,
Correct.
and keep him as busy as possible where he wasn't getting into trouble.
Yes.
And that helped us, especially me, build that relationship with him, because I did coach him, and I did, spend a lot of time with him one on one, or even with his peers, to getting to know the real Josh.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I want to say, this was, we often joke and say it was definitely part of the DNA, as far as athletic ability. I want to also say that it was something that he really enjoyed, right? So at 3 years
It
old,
wasn't forced.
say it again.
It wasn't forced.
Correct. That would
Yeah.
have been torture for everyone involved, because there were times that he was on 3 different teams, and who was supporting and taking him to this, people have said that he plays more games than a major leaguer. And, you know, he was on 3 different teams at times. And so that would have been torturous if he did not enjoy it, right? So it was part of who he is as a person. He enjoyed doing that. And then when he was around 12 years old, we put him into basketball, and just, he enjoyed that too for many years.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And so I think one thing I want to say, it's important for children to be involved in extracurricular activities. And so finding what that is for your child is really important.
I mean, it doesn't have to be sports. It can be piano lessons. It can be, you know, violin lessons, singing lessons, dance lessons, whatever the case may be.
Correct.
You know, as long as you know you're doing something, and believe it or not, that child will remember what you've done and the sacrifice that you've done for them.
Yeah. And I think it also, it's not about the overscheduling, because I think we are, prior to COVID, there was this overscheduling. Your kid was involved in all of these things at one point, and then your family, right, wasn't having dinner together. There were things that were being given up because you were running from this activity to this activity to this activity. And
Right.
so it's like in a balance. Life is all about balance.
We didn't teach our kid that.
Well, definitely not rest, right? It was like, all right, you gotta play on 3 teams because this is what people do. I don't know who does those things, but that's how we did it.
I guess more now we teach them balance as an adult, right?
Yeah. The other day, I don't know if you and I spoke about this, but the other day he says life balance in life is not possible. And that just crushed my dreams. And I was like, this is definitely something we need to talk more about, because it is possible to have balance in life. I think that now that baseball, because of COVID, baseball looks very different. He is finding opportunities to play video games like a regular person, because that, you know what I think about, that wasn't part of his thing. He always had the newest system in his room, but he didn't play because there was other things that took up his time.
I think more of his peers too now. More of his peers are playing, and a lot of people have that extra time
Yeah.
right now. So that's the thing to do.
Yeah. In college, I know it was something that he started again. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I
Okay.
would do it too. I would do it too if there's no studying involved. You know, just play video games.
Yeah. So one thing I want to just to be transparent about is that we did not spank Josh. Spanking wasn't part of our parenting style.
Agreed.
Yeah. I don't and again, because of his temperament, we never really had to do things like that, even though I don't think it's part of what I believe now as a parent, that spanking works.
Do you
What,
agree with that?
I don't believe spanking works.
Oh, no. I remember when we first became parents, and I think it was, what was that magazine you enlisted to? It was like a parenting magazine.
I think it's called Parents.
Yeah, and that parents, yeah, parents. And you pointed out an article to me, and it was just like, wow, you know. So I actually tried my best, you know, as much as I wanted to spank them, but no, you know, that was the right thing to do. There's other forms of it, you know, and I think your early childhood background helped instill that in me.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of sharing of like things that I read, I would share with you, like you need to read this,
Yeah.
right?
Or
And
you would cut it out and read it.
yeah,
Like,
I think that's part of what we need to do for each other, encourage each other to be better, right? And that's never, I mean, where I started in this episode by saying like it's never too late to do that. If you
yeah,
know, if one parent knows that a child is in a certain stage and they see something, I mean, it's so much easier now with social media. We're not cutting out magazines and like leaving them on the refrigerator or sending them in the kid's backpack, whatever it is. Like through social media, you can share these articles with one another to help that other parent know their child a little bit better, or even just to start a conversation, right? If you see something interesting, I'm like, I'm gonna send you this thing, like, let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
Blame it on social media.
What is it? What blogs? Are they blogs, right?
There are blogs, yeah.
Blogs, forums.
Yeah, there's so much.
Yeah.
Blame it on social media so you can start a conversation like, listen, I just found this thing. So it's not like you're sending them subliminals. You're just like, listen, let's talk about this thing, right? What are you doing Sunday at 2:00? Let's sit and have a quick conversation so we can, talk about this thing that I noticed our child doing.
Right.
And it's not a competition, right? It's not like who knows the kid better. It's like, listen, I realized this about the kid. He's going into a different stage. Let's talk about it together.
No, why would you say competition?
Because I think sometimes, especially when parents are co-parenting, there are times when it's like, oh, the kid loves me more, or I know more about the kid, and that I don't think helps anybody.
No, it probably makes a person feel bad. The other person feel bad. Like, damn, really? Thanks. But listen, you're in this together, right? Hopefully. And if you're in it together, you want to share the positives and the negatives.
Correct.
Goes back to episode 1 when I said call out on the parent.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to. You just talk about it, like you said. Appointment at 2:00 on Sunday.
Yeah, we talked about this being like a business, right? I don't know if that was during our prep or one of the episodes that we recently did, but this is like a business transaction. And maybe that sounds kind of cold, but if it is that we put ourselves into this new category of being co-parenting, in my mind, it does feel very much like a business, that we are coming to the table and we both care about this person and we want the best for them.
Exactly. So now that we're in the holiday spirit, right? Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Can we segue into that holiday?
Yeah, I think this also leads to the business aspect, leads to the money too. So it's right on point. All right. So holidays, how did we handle that?
For the most part, it was only really like 2 major holidays for us. It was either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. All the other holidays, because our son was in baseball primarily, Memorial Day baseball, Labor Day, July 4th baseball tournament, Columbus Day. I think Columbus Day was probably the last tournament. But nevertheless, we always, we were traveling parents, whether if this tournament was over here, we would be there. But getting back to, we would alternate. You and I would alternate, if it's Christmas Eve this year, Christmas Day, give me 1 second. My phone just crapped out. I apologize. If it was Christmas Eve, I would have them 1 year. The next year you'd have them Christmas Eve or Christmas Day and vice versa. Yeah. I mean, not everyone does that, and I can speak on my other situation with Jaden's mother. Her and I, we alternate holidays, evens and odds, and we do pretty much every holiday except maybe Veterans Day. We don't do the Veterans Day, but now that he's in school, that might change. But we are at a point where we have good dialogue, good communication, and we can alternate it if possible at any given point.
Yeah, again, it comes down to the communication, and if we were ever going to spend a holiday in another state and it needed to extend a week long, right, then of course we would have that conversation beforehand and make adjustments as necessary.
And vacations too. Vacations too. That that's one thing I remember one time I said, "Can I take Josh for New Year's?" You
Mhm.
know, to Florida to see my folks,
Yeah.
and I waited until I think after Christmas Day for us to leave, so that we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Or yeah, something to that effect. It's been a while, but
Now we have to compete with the girlfriend and the girlfriend's family.
it's called adulting.
Yeah, darn that little the detail. Okay, so going back to, let's talk about the child support.
Okay, talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So we made the decision to not go through the courts, right? So anyone who has watched episode number 1 and number 2, Jay and I pretty much grew up together, and we decided not to go through the courts.
Can you elaborate on why didn't you specifically go through the courts?
Yeah, there are some days now that I'm wondering at 22 years old if I can take you to court. Anybody
Wow.
out there who's watching, let's try, come on, get on my team. Maybe I can take Jay to court now. Only kidding. No, so you know what? My parents had gone through the court system and had child support be a thing that was done through the courts. And so I'm a firm believer in what's fair is fair.
I agree. I agree.
Yes. And so what is due to the child is due to the child. It's not about the parents at that point. It's what the child's needs and things like that. We had decided to pay for school,
Good.
right? So we sent him to Catholic school.
Yeah, we elected that he was going to go to Catholic school from the very beginning. It wasn't like he went to public school and then went to Catholic school. This was part of our parenting style that we said we're going to raise him in a Catholic school setting the way we were raised.
Correct.
You know,
And also, I mean, we live in the Bronx, and the public schools back in the day,
we're
I
terrible.
to them now, but they were not a good option.
No, yeah. Uh, I guess on two fronts, right? Educational wise and violent wise.
Say that last one again. Education.
Violence, education and violence.
Yeah.
We grew up in the 90s. It was tough. It was tough growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so going back to, like, I never felt like I needed to take you to court because you were a man of your word. And if you said you were going to do something, you did. And I trusted your word. And so that was why I chose not to take you to court. And yeah.
But that also worked for us. Like I was committed to helping you uh, fulfill my responsibility. As far as I understood. And some fathers don't see it this way, and it's unfortunate. Some fathers feel that, but why does my son's mom need all this money? Why doesn't but he doesn't eat a lot or she doesn't eat a lot? But there, I always saw it that it's the big picture. There's housing, there's food, there's and don't take it in a negative content, fellas. It's just, that's just the way it works, and clothing and, and for our situation, we had to pay for Catholic school. And back then it was cheap. And we would divvy it up half and half, where there was fees, the fees would come, pictures would come, chocolate fundraising would come. It was like, all right, how much do we owe? This is it. But that was the type of relationship we had. And even if we didn't see eye to eye on other aspects, we always saw eye to eye with the finances. And I'm actually proud of that, because not a lot of people can say that, and
Yeah.
especially coming from my point of view.
Yeah, and I think if the court needs to be involved, then it needs to be involved.
Agreed.
What's
I
fair,
agree.
fair. I am a strong believer in that. It was just not part of our narrative. So
100.
yeah. Okay. The other thing that I was thinking about is, that age where you become like not the who's the cool parent kind of thing. Anything you want to say about that?
I was never the cool parent. That
Oh,
was you.
stop, stop.
I don't know. Like I said at the beginning, I always tried to be his friend, and and because I was the youngest, in of his peers, dads, I I like to think I'm cool. I'm not, not necessarily doesn't translate to being a good parent, but um, I think I've done a decent job at
Yeah,
keeping that fine line from friend to dad,
yeah,
and like in different stages of his life, it's altered.
yeah,
I can say that, it's altered. As a toddler, he looked up to me. As a grammar school kid, the same thing. High school years, it was like, you're still my dad, but you're cool. And
yeah,
then college, it was like, all right,
yeah, yeah,
now now it's different.
yeah. And I think adjusting to your child's development is important for people to really consider, right? When your child becomes a teenager, your parenting style needs to adjust.
Evolve.
Yes. And also when they are, and you and I have talked a lot about this lately, when they become an adult, and they're in college or, just living out of your home, you have to adjust to who they are and learn who they are because they're evolving, as you say.
And I'll tell you one mistake I did personally was that I tried to put myself in his shoes because I was once in his shoes. So yeah, didn't probably call my dad every day at the time while I was his age. But I always I came back.
Yeah.
After being an adult, after having Josh, I came back to being that son. Our relationship became close again. It's like, oh, I'm a man, you're a man. We have a son, like, and then you intertwine that with Father's Day and this day and
Yeah.
the holidays. It just so I always had that feeling that when Josh becomes an adult and eventually he has his own family,
Yeah.
he's gonna come back.
Yeah.
Although your relationship with him was a little different, that you've always kept those lines of communication open.
Yeah. I think the other thing I think for me has been, if Josh comes to my mind, I'm reaching out to him, right? There's never been this thing like, oh, I'm going to wait for him to call me. Listen, life is busy and life is very short.
Oh
And
yeah.
you got to reach out, I think that's just like anyone that comes to my mind, I'm like reaching out to them if it's not a toxic situation. I want to be clear about that. But, like that's my kid. And if I want to know what's happening with him, I'm going to reach out to him and it doesn't matter. And so I think that's the other
So
thing.
we know who the obsessive parent was, right?
Excuse me? What?
The obsessive parent.
Yeah, Josh does call me the stalker
Yeah.
at times. But let me hold on. Just to be clear, there were many times that you would text me on the side because you didn't want to be the stalker parent and be like, "Can you check in on Josh? I haven't heard from him. I text him. I don't know what's happening. Blah blah blah." So let's not.
You're right. You're right. You're right. All right. Listen, white flag.
Yeah,
White flag.
let's be easy over there. All right. So one thing that before we close episode 3, um, when people are struggling with their relationship with their co-parent, where to start, how to start, what are some tips that you can give?
Um, Send a text, an email, a phone call, whichever response you want. A text and a phone call are immediate. An email, I don't know, maybe nowadays is different. you might respond in a day or 2 hours for that matter.
Yeah.
But and share your feelings. Be as transparent as possible so that you can convey what you want to say and get across to that person what you want. Big picture.
Yeah.
Spell it out what you want.
Yeah. And I think I statements are really important, right? We don't start the conversation with you didn't do, you are behaving like, right? It's I am feeling, I think, I noticed, I want. And
Yeah.
that vulnerability piece is really important to try to connect with this other person, because honestly, it's never too late. Again, if there's been some toxic stuff that has gone on, there's a moment there. I'm like, pause, let's pause for a minute. Let's look at the whole picture. But there's never a bad time to reach out and try to set some time up with your co-parent to make the relationship better and keep each other accountable.
Agreed. And if you do intend to meet, make sure you do meet without the child there present. And try to, like I said, be as transparent as possible. You're gonna have to swallow some pride, the both of you, whoever decides, and you're gonna have to put your differences to the side because the overall goal is to help the child get to where they need to be.
Yeah. And I think the thing that we might have said in episode 2, it's just about like getting to know that person on another level as a human, right? If there were just some decisions that were made, if there was something that they did not live up to, right? Maybe turn that into an open-ended question to get some more information before you take it personal or get offended, or try to see their perspective.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. So next up, what were you going to say?
Don't forget to subscribe and share and pass it on to everyone and anyone you know.
Yeah. The educator in me wants to say, now that we've had 3 episodes, we've shared our business with you. What are you going to do about it? What are some next steps, things that Jay and I have talked about here? Take it and look at it from your seat, from your relationship, and try to take some next steps. Again, with your child being at the forefront of your mind, and doing better because you know better. Reach out to us. There are ways to contact us on my website, www.exploringthewonderyears.com. I almost forgot. Oh, geez. And please reach out to us. You can also, as Jay said, subscribe. You can also leave comments there. And if you have any questions, we'll be together again next week for episode number 4. So reach out to us. Anything else you want to say, Jay, before?
Subscribe and share, folks. Subscribe and share. Take care, guys.